Hey everyone, good evening. Thanks for joining us at Global GEG, and welcome to you wherever you are in the world. We've got really exciting journey today, really exciting session today with the awesome Andy Caffrey and Jess Marsh, who, if you're familiar at all with the Google for Education world, you'll know they don't really need any introduction, but I will hand over to them and really excited to take a look at Workspace skills. Over to you, Andy and Jess.
Thank you, Abid.
Yeah, thanks, Abid, and welcome. It's great to be here tonight. I think most people probably do know who I am, but my name's Andy Caffrey. I'm a Google certified trainer, certified innovator, former geography teacher, and about 4 years ago now stopped teaching and now lead the team at Canopy. I'm a Google professional development partner. And I'm wonderfully joined by Jess.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll hope to answer all of your questions tonight. As Andy said, we are representing Canopy, and we're both Google certified innovators and excited to bring this educational background that we have to the ed tech sector.
I'm also enjoying my photo there, which was clearly taken when you could legally have a haircut, because I look so much slimmer and nicer in that image than I do now in the crazy hair of lockdown haircuts.
Back in the day
when you could legally get a haircut. Right, let's get into Workspace skills. So I wanted to start really just by talking about this image of a wonderful looking car, and in fact it's the world's fastest production car. It goes 316 miles an hour, and I've got a daughter who's 11 years old, so she's not that far away. Sort of 5-6 years time she's going to be at the point where she's starting to learn to drive or wanting to drive on her own. And what I don't plan to do when on her birthday is to go and give her that car, give her the keys, and just tell her to go out and just drive that car and see how it goes. Because, you know, from a safety point of view, that's probably not going to go well for your first time in a car. But when we think about her, she's grown up with cars all her life. There's been cars around the whole time. She's, you know, from when she was a baby, she's been out with me in cars. She's seen me drive. We might describe her as a car native, as someone who's been around cars. But ultimately, we know that she can't do that. We know that despite all the technology built into that car, she can't drive that on her birthday with nothing else. And you might think, well, why is he talking about cars and his daughter learning to drive? Well, the same sort of thing relates to the way we often work when it comes to students and their digital skills, because we often make this presumption that students are going to get it, that they're fine, that they're digital natives, that, you know, when they were young, they had an iPad and they could click buttons on the iPad, and therefore it'll be fine. They'll know exactly how to work Workspace and all of the Google tools. And for any of us who's been a teacher, we know that that just isn't true. You know, I don't think in all of my years teaching, I set an assignment to my class on Google Classroom and got every student to perfectly hand that in and to upload the files as I wanted. Somebody would always go wrong. They would always make an error. They would always not fully understand the capabilities of the product. And very often, when I left teaching to start training, we were really focused on training teachers. But through that whole journey, we kept thinking back to, well, this is great for teachers. We have the certifications for teachers, Google Certified Educator Level 1, and Level 2, and then Trainer, Innovator, and Coach sitting above that. But what about the students? And what are we doing with them? So I started to think, well, we need to do more for students. And so that sort of developed into how could we train students? And that ultimately developed into what we're going to look at tonight, which is Workspace skills. So, Jess.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of a warm-up for everyone. So if you are a badge crazy person, or even if you're not, and just want to try out the tutorials and try out what we're talking about when we're saying how to use, that's kind of an interchangeable word for what we're calling our package here. And if you go to canopy.education/skills, or let me just show
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Oh, you got it open.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you go and visit our website at canopy.education/skills, that loads up a page that looks like this. And then one of the first buttons on that page says try for free. What we want you to do to start with is just go over to this. Now, this is a nice and basic interactive tutorial around Google Drive. And I'm really hoping that most of us watching tonight can breeze through this tutorial, because it's our bronze level, getting started with Google Drive. And the way in which our tutorials work is they help students to learn about using Google Drive. So hit the website at canopy.education/skills, hit the try for free button, and then just when you get to this page, hit the big play button, and that will take you into the tutorial. And we're going to pause, and I'm going to stop talking for 3 minutes to see if we can get people there getting started with Google Drive bronze badge. So should we start the timer, Jess?
Yeah, just to let everyone else know, the more direct link is also in the chat, and you can share either of those links with others as well. The whole purpose here is so that you don't have to log into Classroom and everything. Like we'll show you, that's what the product is really integrated with. But we want everyone to have a bit of a play and try to get your badges. So I will put this timer on to give everyone a few minutes and enjoy.
So 3 minutes of me not talking, Jess. While everybody tries to earn a bronze Workspace skills badge. So you're going to canopy.education/skills, hitting the try for free button, loading up the bronze Workspace skills, clicking the big play button, and that should take you into it.
And the reason why we will stop talking is because you'll be hearing the audio instructions now.
Well, 30 seconds left. I feel like there should be some tension music playing in at this point. If you have completed, feel free to drop over to the YouTube or the chat on the channel you're watching, whether you're joining us on Facebook, Periscope, and let us know if you've completed your bronze badge. So did you complete your getting started with Google Drive bronze badge? How did that go? Did you successfully get the badge? And if you really did well, maybe what your scores were.
Right. Yeah, we'd love to know if you're happy to share. We can have a bit of a competition here to see who has scored the highest. And we can talk about those competency scores and also the efficiency scores that you're going to be seeing there. So
I'm just looking in the chat to see who is getting on with it. And some people, Kim's in tonight. If you want to share on the screen, he only got 50% efficiency. I would have expected better of Kim than 57% efficiency. I can see some of the questions coming up in the chat. We are going to move to some of the questions later. So we'll jump back into that in a moment. 97% Katie, but I know Katie's done this before, so I think she may have had prior knowledge.
Yes, please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat at any time. And as Andy said,
another one there, 100% competency, 52% efficiency. Got a 46% efficiency, 95% competency. Another time to get the interface to work, drag and drop was a problem. Whether you want, I'm interested to find out what device Karen's on. But let's now. Do you want to share my screen in, and we'll talk about how the tutorials work and how they come together. So I'm on a different tutorial. I'm on the next one up. I'm next steps with Google Drive, getting a bit more advanced with my learning. But on this initial page that we come in, we see obviously most people just click to start, but the actual tutorials can work in different ways. There are a couple of different modes that exist. So over on the left-hand side here, we've got some options. When we click the options buttons, you can see there's sort of 4 modes that they can play through in. If we don't do anything, we just click to start, the default mode is called Learn by Assessing. And Learn by Assessing means that you're going to work your way through, attempt to complete the tasks as they come up. And if you get stuck, the system is going to help you. So if you don't have to do something, it's going to come in and help you work your way through. The next 2 modes down, these next 2 are almost like video play modes. So Show Most Common shows the tutorial the way that most people do it. So you've all just done a Google Drive tutorial. I would imagine that most people went to the waffle button to get to Google Drive on the first page. There's a common route, and it's collecting all that data and showing the most common. Below that, Show Most Efficient is that efficiency score that we saw different people getting scores for. Because although you might know how to do something in Google Drive, do you know the quickest way of doing it? Are you working in the most efficient way? And actually for Google Drive, keyboard shortcuts cut some efficiency in. And then finally, assessment mode, the 4th mode on the list, is showing you it's just a test mode. So you cannot, there's no help structure in there. It just takes you through, and if you get stuck, it just stops. So 4 modes that the tutorials can be played in. Once I go into this tutorial, this one here is intermediate Google Drive. So I'm stepping up a bit. As I go through, it's obviously giving me tasks to do. So at the top of the page, it's asking me to, in this case, change my English folder to be dark blue. The system understands the different ways you can do something. So it knows where I'm clicking, just like it would in Google Drive. I can interact with the interface there, the Drive interface, in the normal way to change the color of the folder. But let's imagine I didn't know how to do that. Let's imagine I just didn't know what to do at this point. So I was stuck. If I just start clicking around, as you can see, when I click to the wrong place, it firstly highlights it in red. So as I click to the wrong place, it highlights it in red. And then the more I do that, the more the system goes, well, obviously you know what you're doing here. So it's highlighting me down towards this folder. It's giving me a suggestion that this is where I need to be clicking. I need to be doing something with this folder. So again, it's helping me to move to the next step. So if a student doesn't know how to do a task, the system is going to start guiding them forward. So at this point, I click the one again. So now it's telling me to right click on the highlighted area. It's giving me a specific instruction to change the folder. And if I still choose to ignore the instruction, and I just click somewhere again, ultimately it gives me a small push forward, so it moves me through the task. Now, of course, at this point, I am not now completing this myself. So by having that small push forward, I would be in the position where I'm not going to be awarded a badge now, because I'm not at this point competent. I'm not able to, in this case, change the color of a folder in Google Drive. But the system is continuously monitoring what people are doing. So as they work their way through, it's looking at those 2 key areas. Can you do it? And that's competency. So can you change the color of a folder? Can you create a folder in Drive and the tasks that you're asked to do? And efficiency, do you do it in the quickest way? And so that's how the tutorials work when the students face with them and they start to work their way through. Jess, do you want to show us what it looks like when someone gets to the end?
Yeah, well, I was going to go into, well, yeah, a few different bits, but I thought, shall we have a, okay, let me just do that, and then we'll go to our guest speaker. Sorry, I'm sharing. Okay, so at the end, when you a lot of you are already seeing your results, you should have seen two different scores, and hopefully you scored better here with the efficiency. But basically, the competence score is what you were able to do and how competent you were in accomplishing those tasks, and they're broken down there in the sub-skills listed. And then the gain is anytime the system helped you and kind of helped you learn. So you're learning by doing. I saw someone, I think, refer to them as videos, and that's what Andy actually made the mistake of doing as well when we were first looking at them. They're not just videos, they're interactive tutorials. It's a system that is all based on Google Workspace, and so it's a safe playground for you to interact with the different tools in that way. But when you're doing this, you're not actually modifying anything in your own drive, for example. Just to be clear, a lot of students get confused with that, thinking, oh no, did I just delete my file or otherwise? But here you are just experiencing that playground. And then your efficiency score is, as Andy said, if you're not using keyboard shortcuts or maybe the right click option, those kinds of things that can save you time, then you might have a lower score here, but this is not imported into Classroom. What's imported into Classroom is the competence score. So that's what the teachers can see, how well their students are able to accomplish the tasks. And if you do get a badge, you'll see that with a link to the passport, which I'll go over in a little bit, if that's all right. I've thought first we could hear from one of our examples of a school that has rolled this out. And actually, let me bring in Graham.
Hi, Graham. So, to be fair, Graham was, if Graham, you want to introduce yourself first and tell us where you're from?
Yeah, by all means. So I'm Graham. I'm the Director of Technology at Leo. We're a small multi-academy trust. I guess for our US folk, I describe it as a really small district in South London, Surrey.
And Graham was one of the first schools, I think actually possibly your students were the first students ever that we worked with when we started building the tutorials, because we wanted to find out how students got on. And we also wanted to try and work out what should sit in what level, because obviously we want to make bronze getting started nice and simple, and then silver needs to be progressively slightly harder, and then gold a little bit more challenging still. So to work that out, we worked with some beta schools, and the very first beta school in was Graham.
Yeah, so if I may, let me just give you maybe a 30-second snapshot of perhaps some of our thinking that had gone on prior to the Canopy How Do You stuff. So we were very much going down the one-to-one route, very clear vision that every child was entitled to their own device, and that was a key part of our teaching and learning strategy across the board, really. And as a result of that, we were doing loads of work in terms of staff coaching and mentoring and supporting them with the use of tech in classrooms and making sure that children had the skills to access some of the kind of teaching and learning tools that we all know about. And that was absolutely great. And I take it as a real compliment to everybody across the organization for all of the work that they did to make that happen. But there was a gap, and that gap was about how are we developing pupils' digital skills, and we often refer to them as their kind of digital literacy. But ultimately, how are we making sure that it's not that children aren't just receivers of the tech, that our staff can't create really exciting, engaging lessons, but actually children just kind of follow a procedure or follow what they need to do. And also hasten to add, by the way, I think it's absolutely fine for that to be one of the first steps, actually, to get staff up and running, get the staff confident, and then children to kind of follow that through. But ultimately, that wasn't the end game. And I think we were like lots of schools. We were just going into a global pandemic, and we wanted to have something in place, but there was a lot to do. And actually, we needed something we could just kind of adopt, run with, and we needed something that we knew children would love. And to be entirely honest, part of that was about laziness, and actually we just didn't have the capacity to do anything different. We just needed something that I just knew would work. So we were absolutely honoured to get to be involved with the beta, and I know our children really enjoyed it from going back to their friends and being like, I know something you don't know, but also more importantly, that being very open and honest about what they thought about the program. And actually, for some year 4 children, so they're all under 10, they were actually blown away by it. They're blown away by the fact that they had a resource in front of them that could do one or two things. One, could reward them, because actually what child/adult doesn't like a bit of reward? But secondly, there was a teaching mechanism that could help move their learning on, and that was really important to us. So we didn't want just there to be some sort of assessment system, but actually nothing to help move the learning on. So we did this beta program. We gave a bit of feedback, but if I'm honest, not massively, because I think we're really quite impressed with the program. And now what the Workspace Skills provides us is a platform to teach children digital skills. And of course, it's really fair to say that that's evolving, and we're using lots of different things, and actually this is part of it. But this is our core underpinning curriculum for the development of digital skills. And I won't really bore you with the statistics, but if I say so myself, we've got quite a few badges across the organisation, and that's a pure testament not only to our children and their commitment to it, but also to the platform that it's actually kept those children engaged and hooked. So I'm just going to pause there, Andy. I don't know if you've got any questions that you want to sort of me to kind of go into.
Graham, could you tell us about what you did, or what we all did, I guess, together to drive that badge completion rate, the event that we did?
So I guess it's fair to say we did a few things, really. Firstly, I think it was about embracing those children that were keen and passionate and just wanted to get on with it. Didn't really have the time to talk to you because they were too busy doing a badge. And actually, that was fine. So it's that group of children just loved it, were passionate, and they went off and did it. So firstly, we were kind of challenging our more able by pushing them, giving them the platform to do that. And actually, okay, they went and did bronze Google Drive, but actually we could then move that on. So firstly, that was part of it. But really, it wasn't them we were targeting. It was about our children that perhaps were less confident, or perhaps staff that were less confident. And actually, the way we did that is just by mass setting them, by pushing them all out via Google Classroom, and just giving children that opportunity just to go, just to try. And if you get a 10% competency score, great. Well, let's hope you get 15% next time, and 20%, et cetera, et cetera. And I think at no point did we ever expect the expectation that you'd go and get a badge at the end of day one. That wasn't the point. The point was actually that we'd have that mechanism to show the progression of children's understanding. So that was kind of how we did lots and lots of it. And of course, we were very forward thinking, and we were thinking about actually how can we do this better? How can we do this more efficiently? And one of our strategies was actually just to run a really simple live event for all the children across the organisation. So one Wednesday afternoon in lockdown, let's get 2,000 people on a stream Google Meet, and actually let's just push them all out via Classroom, and let's just pump them with motivation. And I intentionally make that point because I think that the platform did the hard work, and we just had to think of so many ways to say keep going. That was basically the challenge that we had. And so we did this live event, and we had like a countdown, and that was great. Oh, sorry, not a countdown, a count up, because we were counting up the number of badges, but counting down on time as well, I'm sure. And it was very timely. It was an hour. That was it. But 3 o'clock it had to finish for a variety of practical reasons. But it just gave that children that opportunity that they're all working together, and this wasn't a competition. It wasn't about which school could get the most, although maybe that might have happened as well. But actually, it's about let's all come together and to support each other to get these How Do You badges. And, let's be really candid. Actually, it was a really good thing to do because it didn't require an awful lot of time or effort. And Jess and Andy very, very kindly helped us with that. But actually, it was quite low maintenance what we were doing. But actually, the impact from that hour was absolutely massive.
Question in from Joseph. What age range year group did you implement this at? Did you use it in Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2? Where's it sitting? And people abroad, we probably should put ages on that.
Good point. So first thing to say is a mistake I made. The mistake I made was thinking that the digital skills badges weren't really suitable for early years or Key Stage 1. We'll start at Key Stage 2. And that was probably, in all honesty, naivety about me. I hadn't really thought about actually what this could look like. So we initially started with Key Stage 2. And actually, if I'm brutally honest, the reason it went to Key Stage 1 is as a result of a parental complaint that they didn't think that it was fair that their Year 1 child was missing out. So we thought, right, fine, let's offer it to Year 1. And that's absolutely the right thing to do. So we started it with our 6-year-old children. And yes, I'd be lying to you if I said every Year 1 child has got all the badges, because they haven't. But what they have got is they've got that access to try the badges and then to improve. Without sort of blowing our own trumpet, I think it's important as well to say that because our children all have one-to-one devices, they kind of are exposed to the tools, perhaps more so than other schools. So they come in at a starting place. And it's also, just to pick up on Joseph's question, we also have a similar, we call it our early years digital skills bookmark, and it's effectively 15 skills that we want our children to be able to do by the end of early years. And the idea is, they do it every single day as early morning work. They come in, the first thing they need to do is just try and log into their Chromebook. Not trying, the idea is they do it, but the first step is just to log into their Chromebook. But it means that at the end of reception, we've got children that have got some of those real core basic skills that they need for future life. And thanks for putting in the ages. That's appreciated.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's good to hear. But what I would also say, just to totally non-age range the product, is that we also have much older students doing it, and that was one of the really deliberate things we did from the start. Was we never went, oh, these are for Key Stage 2, or these are for 12-year-olds, or these are for 18-year-olds. And we have got adults that work their way through the badges. And we also have people who are much younger, and that was deliberate, because actually digital skills aren't really attached to age, and different people develop in different ways. And as Graham said, if you're in a primary school and there's one-to-one Chromebooks everywhere, and you're using them in your lesson every day, you probably do need to shift that skill at a younger age. And if you may be going to college and you've never been with a device before and you're 17 years old, and that might be the time when you need to shift that skill. So it does very much vary as we go through. So I need to say a big thank you to Graham. We might see him a bit later for Q&A, but thank you for popping up, Graham, to give us how a bit about that worked for you guys at Leo. We're going to just talk about, well, we saw just completing one on our website, but that's actually not how we normally assign the tutorials. So should we put my screen in?
Yeah, or actually, hold on just a minute, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to share what my computer wasn't allowing me to earlier. So,
oh, you're working.
With all of the badges that you can earn, we want to share that link as well. You can see the entire package, so all of the skills and the sub-skills, and those are actually based around the Google Certified Educator Level 1 exam. So we have all of the tools that you'll see on the exam there, except for Chrome, YouTube, and Google Groups. So these have actually been used in schools to train teachers as well. Some schools have only used it with their teachers, some schools only with students, and I think that's what's so wonderfully flexible about this, is you can implement it in whatever way makes sense for your school or your organization. And some schools have done a bit of both, like Graham was saying, having their teachers do it first, then feeling that they are secure with it, then going out to the students and following up with the teachers having their level 1 exams. So so the passwords that you'll see when you earn badges, or if you just want to check out your passport, you can always access it at passport.howdoyou.net. And you can see, you can personalize them. I usually like to pick this one. And the students can fill in as much information as they want or leave that. But each passport has a personalized number there at the top, their own personal badge. And what you see here matches the overall skills that you'll see on that shared doc. You'll see all of those broken down by tool here. And when an entire tool is completed, you'll see a stamp across that in their digital passport. And I'll just show the end result. So these, and you can click on any of these to see exactly what that means. The bronze, silver, and gold levels correlate with beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels of each of the tools. And so they also build upon each other, usually in some way. Each one is a bit different, but they all tie together. So as a whole package, you are training your pupils and teachers to use all or most of Workspace, but you can also select what parts not to share. So that's what Andy's going to show us. Andy, did you want me to share it in this, or you want your screen in?
Yeah, put my screen in. And then we're going to talk about assignments. So let's just talk about what this really looks like now from a teacher point of view. So we've tried it from a student point of view, and now we're going to talk about how this looks from a teacher point of view.
And I think Andy did this just to make me have to say, what we've transitioned now. We used to call this product G Suite Skills when Google called their entire suite G Suite for education. But now, since we've transitioned to Workspace
Skills, and I'm doing very well tonight because I've not called it G Suite once yet. So I'm definitely deserved the brownie points for that.
Except that it's on
my screen. So let's just go over to the Google Classroom. So the first thing to say is that what we to enable us to push this out, only teachers need access to the Chrome extension. So we have a Chrome extension. Teachers need access to that. You can download it from the Chrome Web Store. It's called, it's this little one here that's in my top right-hand side. So you push the Chrome extension out, but only to teachers. The purpose of the Chrome extension is to effectively inject the how to use inside Google Classroom. So here I'm in Google Classroom. I go to create, and on my drop-down, I see this how to you in my drop-down list. And I get that there because I've got the Chrome extension installed. So it's just below assignment, click on how do you, and it loads the page in for me. Here we go. So I'm in my Google Classroom. And again, now this gives me access to the tutorials here on the left-hand side. So I can choose what I want my students to do. And I'm effectively going to make an assignment in Google Classrooms. It's very similar to our standard assignment tool in Google Classroom. So these are individual ones here, like the Google Drive ones. And down here, we've got some sets. So if I want to set all of the Google Drive or all of the docs or the slides or Classroom and so on all the way through, down to the very bottom here where I've got all of the bronze, silver and gold, because alternatively I could decide to do it leveled that way instead. So different ways of assigning. And let's imagine I'm going to assign all of the bronze assignments, all 12, so all the Google tools to my group. So I'll pop that in. So that's now 12 assignments there over to my group. And as you see here on my page, it's got my option now. It says the bronze 12 assignments, all how to use. And here they all are. These are the 12 that my students can complete. Now, maybe as a school, we don't use Gmail. So maybe I don't want Gmail. So I can untick any of those I don't want. So I can vary my assignments if I don't want all of them, but just choose. I'll take Gmail off. So I'm now going to go over 12. I'm now going to assign 11. If as a teacher I want to view them, I can just click through them here. As you can see, it loads with a little preview window. I can hit play. I can look at them. And over on the right-hand side here, I'll turn it off first. If I don't do anything at this point, as you can see, it's just going to assign these to my students. And we're probably familiar with this in Google Classroom. I've got my class. I've got my student names. I can put it in a topic if I want, and I can press assign. And so for those of us using Classroom, this is sort of standard assignment. But we also built sort of an additional tool, and that's this little thing here called the interval scheduler. Because maybe loading 12 interactive tutorials on my students in one go is too much. And maybe I want to space that out over a period of time. So if I do, I can turn on the interval scheduler. And as you can see, that then allows me to choose when I'm going to assign these out to my class. So let's imagine I'm going to do one a week on a Wednesday at 8 a.m. in the morning. And here you can see it's worked out when each of them is going to go out one a week for the next 11 weeks. To my students. Or I could change that and maybe let's have 2 a week. So we're going to have Wednesdays and Fridays now. And so as you can see, the patterns change to Wednesdays and Fridays and so on. So I can, if I want to, use the scheduler. So I have to come through this once, and then it's going to push all of these out. And every time those dates are hit, it will assign in Google Classroom. And again, with the due date, when do I want them due in Google Classroom? Maybe 3 days later. So now I've got a due date 3 days after the assigned date for each of them.
And just wanted to give a little use case scenario that how some schools have been doing this, like with tools. For example, some have been assigning one tool a week on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or some have been rolling them out all of the bronze first, one a week or one a day. You can use the scheduler to do any of those things, but schools have made it work for their own in conjunction with their IT or ICT classes.
Thanks, Jess. So I'm now on this area where I can hit assign, and that's effectively going to be assigned out to my students for them to complete in Google Classroom. So in a very similar way to using the standard assignment tool, that will just go out to my students. So that's assigning in Classroom. Then obviously my students will go into Google Classroom, they'll click the links and they'll do the tutorials. And they'll sign in through their Google account and they will complete the tutorials. So then what happens at the other end of that process? So let's go over to the gradebook. So here we are in Google Classroom. And as you can see, we've got some of the tutorials that have been assigned to this group of students here on the left-hand side. And we can see their individual scores coming in at this point here. So the scores the students get, the competency scores, as Jess mentioned earlier, are reported back into Google Classroom. So for each of these particular tutorials, we can get the score back in Google Classroom to see how our students are getting on. We can see which ones they've done, and we can see what scores they're completing.
And also, Rashma asked about, can the teachers and students redo to get a better score? Yes. The most or the best competence score, the highest score, is what will be overridden and put into the classroom. So they can try as many times as they like. Even if they get a badge, sometimes students still want to try to get, for example, a better efficiency score. So that doesn't hurt them. It always helps to tell them to mark it as done in the classroom, as we try to do with everything. And there is a tutorial for that. But even if they don't mark it as done, the system usually will pull through those scores.
So that's the scores coming into Google Classroom. And obviously we can get onto this particular individual page here where we see the scores from the one assignment. And this page, we can see how they all score if we need to break it down into individuals that way. Jess, should we talk to Katie next?
Yeah, and just one little thing that that a lot of people actually that even use Google Classroom don't use this function a lot. But when you click on that gear on the top right there, that settings gear, you can download those grades as a CSV or a Google Sheet file, whatever you prefer, so that you can not only download the grades for your tutorials, but for everything. And once you have returned them to your students. So just like with anything else, you need to see those scores and return them back to the students so that you've acknowledged receiving them. And then you will be able to download those grades. So you can run analytics on the data if you like doing that sort of thing. So yeah, we have Katie here, who is going to tell us a bit more about how she's used this in her class. And also, we had a question, some questions for you too, Katie. So we'll let you introduce yourself first.
Okay, hi, I'm Katie. I work at a small prep school near Oxford, and we have been using Workspace tools. The skills. I'm trying to figure out what it's called again now. I'm like, geez, no, right name. And we've been using it since September this year, this academic year, with our years 4, 5, 6. So they're 8 to 11-year-olds. We are also one-to-one Chromebooks. So our children were quite exposed anyway to the Google tools. But these have been a great addition just for their the digital skills that we want them to have. So we have been issuing them through Google Classroom. We started off in September. We've sometimes done like the ICT lesson based on using Drive or something. They've learned some skills. Maybe we've done that for 2 or 3 lessons, learning about features of Drive. And then we sort of have issued these how to use as a little recap at the end, sort of assessment type way so that we could see what they were doing. And that's how it sort of started out at our school. And then obviously, because it was, so easy to issue that way. And the way that they worked, we continued doing them through lockdown and our distance learning program, because the children were then familiar with them and they could crack on with them. And yeah, it's great how they mark their efficiency, because as we know in Google, there's about 10 different ways of doing everything. And in the classroom, it's been great because it's sort of triggered conversations amongst our children. Oh, how did you get to drive? Oh, you went to the waffle. Oh, I did this, and I just Googled Google Drive. And so it teaches them all the different ways. And it's been great for the younger ones because then they understand that it doesn't matter which way you do it, it still works that way. So they've just really loved it at our school, just using these. And then obviously the passport and them collecting badges has been a great incentive. Makes that little competition for them all. What badges are...
We had a question way early on, and I thought this was a perfect question for you, Katie, because it's the target grade area as well that you have worked with. So which have been the favorites of your students? Which badges have they really loved, or which ones would you suggest that they start with?
Okay, so my year 5s, which are 9-10 years old, they have more or less all got their bronzes in all the different levels. Wow. And they're working on their silvers. Some of them are beyond the teachers, because I have also issued this out to the teachers. It then created a bit of rivalry with the teachers when the children have been like, I've got all my bronzes, because we've got stickers and they stick them on their prep diaries, and the teacher's like, oh, you've got your bronze Workspace badge. I suppose I better get my bronze Workspace badge. So yeah, we've been doing the bronzes. I've got some of my year 4s and 3s, so they're 7-8 years old. They're completing sections of their bronze with the things that they're exposed to most, so like slides and docs, Jamboard. I think they've all done bronze, silver and gold with Meet, because they're all amazing at Google Meet now, having done 3 months of lockdown on it. So I said to my class today, oh guys, I'm gonna go talk about the badges that you will do tonight. What shall I say? What shall I say about them all? And the kids were like, oh, they're really fun and they're great because you learn and it tests you. And they said that, yeah, the passport and how they can personalize their little passport is all the things that they love about it. So there you go.
Good to hear. And also your impression of what the students sound like is impressive there, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have quite a few different questions coming in. Should we hit some questions, Jess, next?
Yeah. I think, Katie, that was your main question, unless you want to stay on to help. Should we bring Graham back in too, in case there's...
Yeah, we can do some questions. Should we start with, do you want to pick a question, Jess?
Yeah, so we had...
I can see a question from, is it Rishma, about how deep does this course go? So yeah, so just and I know Jess mentioned this earlier. So obviously, firstly, to be very clear, we wrote this initially with students in mind, but then really from that very first time it was out in schools, we saw lots of teachers doing it as well. So we wrote it deliberately with this in mind, that if you completed all of the badges at gold level, that's equivalent to sort of skills that would be required for the skills checklists that we see for Google Certified Educator Level 1. So if you think about how high would it go, my answer probably would be at this point in time, it goes to Google Certified Educator Level 1, because we think that's an appropriate level of ability to be able to use the tools, particularly when we're working with students. Some schools, what they do is they roll them out to the staff and they say, well, when you get the Gold Workspace badge, it's a good indicator that you might pass the Level 1 exam. So then we'll go and give you a voucher for Level 1, or we'll let you do Level 1 at that point. So there are people who use this as a route to training for Level 1. So that's probably answers that question. Picking up, do you want to pick the next question, Jess?
Yeah, I have to say hi to Floriana and say, espero, I hope that we can translate these in multiple languages, and there is that possibility to do that. Right now, you can try out the different versions in English, British, or in my accent, American, as some of you might relate to. Of course, our Swedish developers have the ability to translate. I think they've translated bits of things too, but right now they're just in English, and we're looking for which areas might be interested in having these done. So thank you. Italy is on the list.
Yeah. Well, as Jess, you are a native Italian speaker. Italy's been on the list all along. Next question up. We've got a question from Jeffrey about iOS. So that was the question. So,
sorry, I think there's two. We're clicking and
doesn't want to stay on screen. So he's are there any plans to have interactive tutorials for iOS for Workspace apps? He'd like to have more students use how to do tutorials, but they want them on iPad.
And actually, we have a school that has done all of the how to use on iPads. So it is possible. It's not ideal to use iPads because not all of the how to use are customized for touchscreen at this point. But it is possible to do it. It's just there's like sometimes typing parts and little things to consider. So, but yes, that's also on the roadmap.
Yeah, and for that one, really, we're just looking at whether the volume is there. So we were interested, and Jeffrey's name can go on that list, and another +1 for that area. And what we're always trying to do is work out where that demand is next for that area. So we've been asked to iPads a couple of times now. Any other questions in the chat, Jess, we need to answer?
Yeah.
Admins leaders have the ability to see how many badges have been earned in an organization.
And so we have that as a possibility now to update, and you might see on our social media we're rewarding schools all the time when they get to I think Katie's close to 1,000 and Graham's already hit 3,000, so we celebrate those marks, and we're working on an additional feature that would be like a premium feature where you could see more data in detail. So,
but of course, what I would also say is bear in mind that because that data is already there in Classroom, you can extract the data out. And there are some schools, there's two different approaches really, because one approach is to get all your teachers to assign individually for each class. And I think, Katie, you did that sort of approach, didn't you, in your school? And then the other approach, which I think Graham might have done, as if we magically planned this, was to create a great big classroom and put them all in there and assign them all in one big hit. And of course, that if you're doing it that way, it allows you to get all that data back out in one big hit as well as a CSV file to do some data tools with.
Like in the colleges or in what would be like high schools or different things in the States, they have done that method that you just mentioned more so, Andy, of just one big class for everybody to try this out. So yeah, again, you can organize it in whatever makes sense to you. I think, Graham, you had it integrated in their classrooms that they were already using, right? Or Katie too, right? You both did that?
We do a bit of both, actually. So where Google Classrooms are really well established, our kind of vision is that the classrooms are kind of the heart of everything in terms of their digital work. So actually, digital skills was part of that. And where that wasn't in place, we kind of, it goes against my morals a little bit, but we kind of went off to just so we could aggregate the data in a really time efficient way. But I think generally we try and keep one classroom, one class. And not to say that's necessarily right, but just our current thinking on it.
Yeah, no, it's certainly worth considering. Jess, so first we also thank Katie and Graham for joining us because they're probably going to drop down now.
Yes,
Jess, do you want to talk about how we get access to it and the different packages and how all that works?
Yes, so as I'll share my screen here. And what we haven't mentioned this so much yet, but one of the kind of special things that we've done with the schools too, and we probably have some Workspace whizzes here tonight watching, are when the students have finished all of their badges. There is like confetti drop in the system when that happens, but also we have these pin badges that we have celebrated with, like Katie said, there's stickers and things as well, but this is kind of our big overall badge and what we're working towards. So if they finish that Workspace whiz, they're definitely ready. If your teachers would be ready for the level 1 at least. And I think with a good start on level 2, I think there was a question about that too. So, let me jump to, sorry, I'll show you a couple of things that what Andy had just mentioned here was how that looks when you download it. And then I'll go, yeah, here's where I wanted in our pricing. So you can see everything on our website, but this is a link that was sent out for Google certified trainers, innovators, and coaches. So this is through the Google groups that you should have received a notice about this.
Yeah, so we're huge fans of trainers, coaches, and innovators in particular, who I think are the best. But trainers, coaches, and innovators, and so trainers, coaches, and innovators get free access to Workspace Skills for themselves and up to 50 students. So if you are one of those, you should have had an email come out, and obviously you're probably quite used to May's emails with all the offers in. So if you search your drive for May's emails, and for trainers, it's also on the trainer perks page in the trainer hub. If you don't have to have or don't seem to have got access to either of those routes, feel free to reach out to myself or Jess, and we can provide you with the link. But obviously, we're not going to share the link wider, just in case you're not a trainer or innovator. So trainers, innovators, coaches, access to use this with up to 50 students, all the badges, unlimited number of time on the badges, but up to 50 students coming through the system.
Yep. And then these are the prices that are on our website. And basically, it's mainly divided by the number of users. So the bronze package being for 500, silver for 1,000, and bronze for 2,000. And then if you have more users than that on the domain, and when I say users, I mean teachers, students, staff, everybody can do them. So if you have more than that, we can always give you a custom quote. And the other little things that are included in silver and gold are 1-hour trainings. We often find that these are better implemented and actually used when we come and do some demos, kind of like this, but personalized for your schools. And then the gold package has those Workspace Whiz pin badges, some of those to hand out to the lucky students, or the hardworking students, I should say. And then also kind of what Graham was sharing with us, the boost event, like when we can do a live counting up celebration and just promoting usage. And so for your attendance today, we have a special discount with that code. So we just need to pop that in the chat, and you can just reference that to us, and I'll put my email as well. So that will give you a 10% discount on any of the packages that we have. And again, this is something that you can use with your entire school. It's an annual subscription. Anything else, Andy? Did I forget?
No, that was it. I wanted to say a big thank you to Katie and Graham for joining us tonight to go through that, and obviously for Jess for joining us as well, and for everyone for watching. I'm sure there are a range of additional Global GG sessions coming up. So stay tuned for those. But otherwise, thanks very much. See you all again soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.